BendAid lets you mark up copper pipes very quickly for bending in a hand bender. You can accurately and easily mark up crossovers, offsets and single sets. BendAid is essentially a folding rule which is approximately 12 inches long when unfolded. Let's start by using BendAid's mark-back scale to produce a single set at a specified position on the pipe with an angle of, let's say, 60 degrees. First, mark the fixed or reference end of the pipe with an O symbol. This is the end of the pipe from which the measurement may be made to determine the position of the bend. It's also the end that won't change its position after the bend is complete. Next, mark a small X where you want the centre of the bend to be, as measured along from the fixed end. Now lay the pipe along BendAid's mark-back scale, with the X aligned to the end of the rule and the O end of the pipe pointing towards the red O symbol. Mark the pipe at the 60-degree scale mark with a dot. Carefully extend the mark around the pipe to make it easier to see when the pipe is positioned in the pipe bender. Set BendAid's protractor to 60 degrees. To perform the bend, position the pipe in the pipe bender with the O mark under the pipe stop hook and the extended mark just visible at the edge of the former. Pull the bend using BendAid's protractor as a guide. You've now produced a 60-degree single set exactly at the position you specified, as measured from the fixed end of the pipe. Now let's use BendAid to produce an offset. This needs 2 bends to complete it. If you want the offset to be in a particular position along the pipe, you need to tell BendAid exactly where you want the second bend to finish. The dotted line shows this position on a completed offset. You can do this by placing an X mark on the unbent pipe at this position as measured horizontally from the fixed end of the pipe. As usual, mark the fixed end with an O. Note that the X tells BendAid where you want the offset to end up. Because a pipe effectively gets shorter when it's bent, the X mark itself will not actually end up at that position, but there's no need to worry about any of this because BendAid scales automatically allow for this shortening and get the position of the finished offset exactly where you want it. Let's assume that you want to bend a 50mm offset. That is, you want to move the pipe sideways by 50mm, keeping it parallel. Unfold BendAid and look for the edge that includes the offset size you require, 50mm in this case. You'd quickly see that the 45-degree set of scales is the only one that includes 50, in the right scale, the middle scale, and the left scale. Lay the pipe along the 45-degree edge of the rule with the X lined up to the tip of the red 45-degree arrow and the O mark pointing towards the red O. Hold the pipe steady and place 2 marks where 50 is indicated on the 2 leftmost scales. You can ignore the rightmost 50 scale mark because you only need 2 bends for an offset. Extend your 2 marks around the pipe so that they'll be clearly visible from either side of the pipe when it's fitted into the pipe bender. These 2 marks tell you where to position the pipe in the bender to pull the 2 bends you need for the offset. Set BendAid's protractor to 45 degrees because you're using the 45-degree set of scales. Position the pipe in the pipe bender with the O mark under the pipe stock hook as usual and the first extended mark just visible at the edge of the former. Pull the first bend to 45 degrees using BendAid's protractor as a guide. Next, reposition the pipe in the bender with the second mark at the edge of the former. Pull the second bend to 45 degrees to bring the pipe parallel with its original direction. You can use BendAid's protractor as a guide again, and you can also check the bend by eye. You've now produced a 50mm offset at exactly the position you specified. Finally, we'll bend up a crossover and also take a quick look at partial crossovers. For a crossover, you'll usually want to tell BendAid exactly where you need the peak to be. The dotted line shows this position. It's normally located over the center line of the pipe being crossed over. You must also specify how high you want the crossover to be at its peak. This is usually the diameter of the pipe being crossed over plus a clearance gap. Let's say you want to bend up a crossover to pass over a 15mm pipe with a clearance gap of an extra 5mm. Start by marking the fixed end of the pipe to be bent with the usual O. Then hold the pipe in its correct position above the pipe being crossed over and mark an X directly where it crosses. Alternatively, it might be easier to measure the required distance from the fixed end and use this measurement to mark your pipe with an X. Now in this example, you want the total crossover height to be 15 for the pipe plus 5 for the gap, which adds up to 20mm. Unfold BendAid and look for the edge that includes the crossover height you need, 20 in this example. You'll quickly find that the 20-degree set of scales is the only one that includes 20 in all its 3 scales. So lay the pipe along BendAid's 20-degree edge with the X lined up to the tip of the red 20-degree arrow and the O mark pointing towards the red O. Hold the pipe steady and place 3 marks where 20 is indicated on each of the 3 scales. Remember, you need 3 bends for a full crossover. As usual, extend your 3 marks around the pipe to make them easier to see in the pipe bender. These 3 marks tell you where to position the pipe in the bender to pull the 3 bends required for a full crossover. You're using the 20-degree scales, so set BendAid's protractor to 20 degrees. Position the pipe in the pipe bender at the first mark, nearest the O, and pull the first bend to 20 degrees, using BendAid's protractor as a guide. Now set the protractor to twice the first angle, which in this case will be 40 degrees, ready for the second bend. Refit the pipe into the bender at the second mark. Pull the bend to 40 degrees with the help of BendAid's protractor. Now with all these bends you'll probably need to carefully over-pull slightly because the copper tends to spring back when released from tension and ends up at a slightly smaller bend angle than you wanted. Note that at this point you could stop and use the bent up pipe as a partial crossover. You'd probably have to trim the last leg of the bend to get a good fit into the T-socket. However, for a full crossover, reset the protractor to the original 20 degrees, ready for the final bend. Refit the pipe into the bender at the third mark and pull the final bend to 20 degrees, using the protractor to help. You can also check by eye that the straight sections are in line. You've now produced a 20mm high crossover at exactly the position you specified, first time. Note that because of the pipe shortening effect due to bending, your X mark has not ended up where the peak of the crossover has ended up, but the peak itself is exactly where you specified it to be. Now you've seen what BendAid can do, let's summarise BendAid's features and advantages. BendAid makes it quick and easy for plumbers to bend up accurate single sets, offsets, crossovers, and partial crossovers, first time. Novice plumbers, student plumbers, out of practice veteran plumbers, and DIY enthusiasts alike can all get accurate results so long as they can use a hand bender. Once you've used BendAid a couple of times, you won't need to remember or consult complicated pipe bending procedures or textbooks or tables to be able to produce accurate bends. BendAid saves you money because costly copper pipe doesn't have to be scrapped or soldered on due to your bend ending up in the wrong position or the wrong size. You don't have to buy or stock the very expensive crossover or partial crossover manufactured fittings, which need extra soldered joints to incorporate them into the pipework. You simply bend up what you need when you need it, with BendAid. BendAid saves you valuable time because you get the bend right at the first attempt.